Wow, we really do have the authoritarian establishment on the run. Just in the last week alone, it's incredible the amount of measures that the EU and the Irish state is trying to introduce to curb free speech, free exchange of ideas, either during an election, during normal time, online, whatever. Set up, well, on Friday, the Digital Service Act of the EU came into force. It actually sets up what can only be described as Ministry of Truth. Its proper name is the Digital Services Coordinator of Member State. So basically, each member state must set up that's called Ministry of Truth. And they will decide what is allowed, what can be tolerated, what can be deleted, what can be deemed illegal, and or breaking the law, and implement that material is removed from online. There's also in this legislation, there's also what they call trusted flaggers. That is entities which will be vested with authority to decide. They will be flagging what they believe to be bad speech, bad thoughts, bad words, illegal content, unapproved content. They will flag that to the big tech, which then must be removed. Given that it's the EU which is behind the anti-free speech legislation currently floating the way through the Dáil, it's incredible when you look at the kind of matrix of legislation which is coming from the EU, be it on anti-free speech, which is Digital Services Act, which is the guidelines for big tech, which they have already. So basically the EU is afraid of the open exchange of ideas and is dictating, well, the state is trying to dictate to people what they can say, and it opposes free speech. Wants to stop equality of all citizens before the law and bring in inequality, so that the minorities or groups which it chooses have greater privileges than ordinary people, which I believe is very unjust and will be abused for sure. Another aspect which came in this week, which is unbelievable, is basically the new Electoral Commission announced the election boundaries. It got rid of split up a number of constituencies and reintroduced a larger number of 3-seat constituencies. Now, 3-seat constituencies help the big parties like Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin, etc., and hurt and make it very, very difficult for smaller parties like yourselves to be elected. It's easier in 4, 5, or even 6-seat constituencies because the votes across the whole country are more proportional according to the people who vote. If it's the smaller the size of constituencies, the more likely that it will only be the big parties which get elected, and there will be a large chunk of people in the state who are not represented by representatives in the Dáil. It is a form of gerrymandering. It is very anti-democratic. And on top of that, in a press conference this week, this new Electoral Commission have said that they will have the powers to demand that information and statements are deleted, that they are removed, if they believe that it runs contrary to the truth. Now, I believe it should be the public who decide on the veracity of statements that are made. Let the people decide, let the people hear all the arguments put up by the various participants, and the people should be the ones making the decisions, the ones deciding on the goodness or the truth of various statements made by these potential people who are running for election. This should not be the authoritarian state, deciding and imposing its views on what is true to the public. That is very dangerous. It's authoritarian, it's restricting, it's wide open to abuse, and given that the Electoral Commission has obviously, these people are appointed by the government, they reflect the views of the establishment, and I believe giving them more power is very dangerous. The more power that resides with ordinary people, the better. It's the people who should have the power to decide what they believe is good and true, which politicians they want to represent them in the Dáil. And it makes it very, very difficult when so many small constituencies. It's very hard for smaller parties and independents to get elected, and especially in an environment with this new Electoral Commission, when they decide and they're going to enforce what they believe to be true and good, rather than the people deciding. So, but let's double down. Now, clearly, is a time for the Irish people to stand up, our backs against the wall. The state authoritarian regime is calling in all favours, legislating like crazy to silence people. Of course, they don't want debates about who really runs this country. Is it the big tech? Who is this country run for? Is it asylum seekers? Is it all the economic migrants come to Ireland? Or should it be for the benefit of Irish people? These are big questions like, are the Irish people good enough to make our own laws? Should the Irish people alone have the power to make our own legislation which impacts our lives in Ireland? Or should it be, as in the moment, that many of our laws, much of the legislation which goes through Dáil Éireann actually originates in Brussels and is made by people we didn't elect and cannot get rid of? So, in these hard times for a free, democratic society in Ireland, I'm asking everybody out there to look around at their society, what is going on, to realise that the authoritarian state is threatening your freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom to elect a representative in the Dáil by their act of gerrymandering with all the small constituencies. So more people, I would ask more people to get up, get active, join the party, talk about the party, its policies, get our candidates elected in the European election, in the local elections and in the elections to Dáil Éireann, and let's work for a better Ireland for ourselves and our children, a place that Ireland is a place of personal freedom and national sovereignty. That's what I'm looking for. So my name is Hermann Kelly. I'm president of the Irish Freedom Party. Go to Margaret.